Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 28-year personal injury lawyer. This is the podcast where we deal with all things related to personal injury law. Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2025. And up today, there is a sort of new law that is intended to save lives. It just may save yours or somebody else's. And also, ringing in your ears. Do you know what that's called? Do you know that there might be solutions? And how is that related to personal injury? So let's dive right in. Let's talk about these various topics that are in front of us today. And first off, let's talk about the distracted driving law that actually went into effect in August of 2024. So if you didn't know, at this point in Missouri, it is absolutely illegal to have your phone anywhere about you in your vehicle while you're driving. So what does that mean? That means that you, for a long time now, you could not text and drive. That's been the law in basically most of the states. But Missouri in August of last year put into effect a law that basically says you cannot hold your phone, you can't talk on your phone. Obviously, you can't text on your phone. You cannot have your phone if you're driving in your vehicle. You're only allowed at this point, since August, to have your phone usage via Bluetooth through the car or on a speakerphone, and that is it. Okay, so what has changed? What's new for 2020? As of today, I'm recording this on January 1st, 2025. It is now going to be enforced to the extent of financial penalties. So, of interest, it's a secondary offense, which means if you're driving down the road and you're on your phone and a police officer sees you, they cannot pull you over just for that offense. It will be a secondary offense. But be warned and be wary, because I have a feeling if you are flagrantly driving down the road on your phone, especially as awareness of this law will be kicked into high gear, you're going to get pulled over. And so you need to make sure that you're planning as you begin driving here in the new year to put in place in your vehicle what you need to so that you don't have to use your phone. There is some good news out there on the distracted driving front. But first, let me talk to you about some of the statistics and also what we see all the time in our personal injury practice. So according to all of the research that's out there, distracted drivers are more likely to kill or injure a person other than themselves if they get into a car crash. And it's just a fact of life. Let's face it, all of us have a lot of distractions when we're driving. And the phone obviously is probably the number one distractor, whether it's the radio or whether it's people in your car or whatever. There's a lot of outside influences that affect you when you're driving. And so with the phone situation becoming such a problem, states are working to crack down on people being distracted by that device. And what's going to happen is this law that went into effect, again, it prohibits drivers from holding mobile phones or touching their screens while operating a vehicle. And again, drivers are still allowed to use their phones on a hands-free basis, but they can also, should note, you can handle your device when you're stopped at a red light. So that's allowed. So as of 2009, Missouri lawmakers outlawed mobile phone use for all drivers 21 years and younger. And with the passage of the enhanced hands-free law here last year, Missouri became the 49th state to prohibit the practice for all drivers. We're on the tail end of the nationwide sweep, but Missouri has put it into place. And essentially, what lawmakers, safety professionals have recognized is that distracted driving is not just a teen driver issue. And I think, again, if we all are out on the roadways, it doesn't take long for us to see somebody on their phone. And again, I don't think any one of us can say we have not utilized our phone while driving. If you do, then you're lying. That's all I'm going to say, because we're all guilty. But it's a really big problem. It causes a lot of injuries. It causes a lot of deaths. And so here's the statistics. Since 2019, there have been 414 deaths caused by automobile crashes where distracted driving was identified. That's according to the Missouri Department of Transportation. Fatalities, deaths from those crashes numbered 106 in 2023, which was up 84 from the previous year. Now, interestingly enough, overall deaths have ticked down from 991 in 2023 to 910 in 2024 as of December. So the amount of distracted driving is higher than obviously these statistics show, because obviously a lot of this depends on the driver that caused the accident self-reporting that they were distracted. And me, in my profession, I do see it where people will acknowledge that they were on their phone, or a lot of times the phone falls off the seat of the car and they're trying to search for it while they're driving and a crash ensues. So it's interesting that it's not just the use of the phone in and of itself, it's the phone being in the car and being a possible source of distraction. So again, good safety tip is when you set out to drive, especially as we go into this new year where now it is something you could get a ticket for, make sure you secure your phone. You're ready. If you get a call or whatever, you can answer it hands-free. And another great thing, I know I have it on my phone and I have it active on my phone, which is my phone goes into drive mode when it detects that it's moving, so that I get no notifications, no text notifications. It doesn't ring. If somebody calls me, it goes directly to voicemail. And it's a great thing because that is one less opportunity to look at that phone and be distracted, even for that, maybe a second or less. And all the evidence shows that it literally only takes that second of not paying attention to the roadway to cause an accident. And when you divert your attention from the act of driving, even again, if it's for the slightest of moments, that's when something can happen. And that's whether you're going off the roadway, failing to recognize a vehicle that's coming into your driving path, or whatever that looks like. Every second counts when you're operating a vehicle. And we all have to remember these vehicles that we drive, these things are weapons. These are not just little toy cars. These are heavy vehicles that can cause a lot of damage and obviously can cause severe injury and can cause death. So, what else do we know? Here's the interesting thing. These groups that are involved and study distracted driving, they have put together research that shows when Awareness is brought about to the issue of distracted driving goes down. And it does make sense, right? If people are putting it out there that distracted driving can cause injury, can cause death, can cause big problems out on the roadways, people become aware and they do take action to try to avoid that distraction. And so it's really cool that, again, we had the new law passed in August, and there's been a decrease in distracted driving incidents. And now, with the financial penalty component going into enforcement in 2025, again, hopefully that helps bring down the number of distracted driving accidents. The specific numbers on this awareness reducing distracted driving looks like this. According to a paper by the Massachusetts-based Cambridge Mobile Telematics, they found that distracted driving dropped by 5% in Missouri between the end of August 2023 and the end of August 2024. And that was based on actual phone use data. And according to them, 5 lives were saved during that time. And the data firm also found that distracted driving by Missouri drivers has dropped 15% since 2022, which is the 5th best improvement among states during that time. Again, there's been greater awareness campaigns. There's been a law enacted, and that has reduced the amount of distracted driving in the state of Missouri. It's interesting that, again, we all think that everybody else is the issue when it comes to distracted driving and that we're safe doing it, but that's simply not the case when you look at the broad-based numbers involved. So keep it in mind as you go into this new year. Again, make the plan right now when you hear this message to make sure that when you get behind the wheel of your vehicle, that your phone is not going to cause an accident. I see it again so much. I also see radio distraction, things like that. We actually, a few years ago, had a young man who was broken down on the side of the road, and a lady was messing with her radio and just veered off enough off onto the shoulder where this young man had his vehicle broken down that she collided with his vehicle, sent him flying because he was outside of his vehicle, and his vehicle hit him, causing him to then go flying, and he sustained very serious injury. And so again, lots of distractions, but our best way to avoid any of that is focus on the road and put the phone securely in place, not just down, because again, I've seen where people try to find a phone that has slid off or something like that, and that causes an accident. So be safe out there on the roads this year as we move forward. Let's help continue to bring down the distracted driving accidents. Now, on another front is a hearing issue that we see from time to time that is directly caused by being involved in an accident. And you say, what? I don't even understand what you're talking about. Have you ever heard of tinnitus or tinnitus? So medical professionals pronounce it both ways. Most medical professionals will call it tinnitus. Most lay people will probably call it tinnitus, but either one is correct. And so what is that? Tinnitus is a ringing in your ears, and it is something that is very severe. Tinnitus can be on a spectrum from mild to severe, but regardless, it can have severe impact on your life. Everything from just your daily living to your sleep, all of that can be affected, and consequently, it can then affect your mood. It can affect your emotional state. It can lead to anxiety, and it can become a really severe issue in somebody's life if they suddenly are faced with having tinnitus, this ringing in your ears. And it has a lot to do with, it's not really as much as a hearing problem as it is a brain problem. But the fact that we hear it in our heads, that's why it's generally looked at as a hearing problem. But again, tinnitus is something that can be traumatically induced. So how does that happen? Basically, exposure to loud sounds generally are going to be the primary cause of tinnitus. And so in an accident, right, what's that look like? It can look like just the sound of a crash could potentially lead to this condition. Or a lot of times, the deployment of airbags in a vehicle will cause tinnitus in somebody that is involved in a crash. And so that's what we typically see, is where airbags have deployed. There's now this ringing in somebody's ears, and they are unable to effectively go about their day without dealing with this constant noise in their head. And it can be very problematic for the person that is suffering from this. And so, what do the treatment options look like? Generally speaking, there's a lot of different stuff. Everything from increasing exercise, lowering salt, things like that. So diet, exercise, believe it or not, can all help remedy tinnitus. But then on the medical front, a lot of times people will be given hearing aids. And what that does is generally the hearing aid amplifies the outside sounds that people have, which then helps drown out these internal sounds that people are experiencing from tinnitus. And so there's this course, it's basically something that usually is not going to go away. It's usually a permanent condition. And so in order for somebody to effectively manage a tinnitus condition, they're going to have to look at several different options to try to get it under control so that they can go back to living their life in as normal of a way that they can. And this past year, we actually settled a case for a young man who experienced tinnitus after being involved in a really serious accident. There was airbag deployment. And so essentially what was happening is he not only was having tinnitus, but he was also experiencing hearing loss. And the two can go together. There's certainly not an either or. You can experience hearing loss because of an accident, or you can have tinnitus because of an accident, or you can have a combination of the two. And this young man, and I mean, we're talking I think he was 23 at the time of the accident. And now he's got this ringing in his ears and some loss of hearing. And again, all of the medical professionals say it's a permanent condition. It's not coming back. He experiences it in one ear. And again, it actually knocked him out of his chosen occupation. He's no longer able to do the job that he was actively engaged in at the time of this accident. And so it's had a profound effect on his life. And it can be a really serious issue. And again, we see it all age ranges. This isn't something that just affects older people. People do develop tinnitus and things like that as they age sometimes. But for our purposes, what I'm dealing with here today, this is trauma-induced tinnitus. And it's a real thing. It's a serious thing. And if it's something that you've experienced, then you can fully appreciate just what kind of a profound effect it could have on your life. But there are treatment options, and that's the good news. And you can get relief, and you should work to get relief, because You got to remember anything that's going to affect, well, first off, just your daily living, that's going to affect you mentally. But anything that affects your sleep is going to have a profound effect on your overall health. Sleep, we know more and more these days about the importance of sleep, the importance of the restoration of your body during sleep. And if you're not getting good quality sleep, then you're going to have big problems with your overall health as you go down through your life. And so you can't live with tinnitus just untreated because it's not going to go well for you long term. And again, if for some reason you've been in an accident and you think you're experiencing some type of a hearing issue because of it, listen, you very well may be, and you need to be checked out by the proper medical people to see what options are out there for you. So that's a really interesting way to start off 2025. Listen, there's good news on the horizon because distracted driving is going down. It looks like awareness, and now there's going to be enforcement, and those things will hopefully prevent injury and save lives. And unfortunately, I know that we'll continue to see accidents involving distracted driving. And for some reason, if you've been involved in such a situation, never hesitate to reach out to me, to our law firm. We're always happy to see how we can help on that. And if you, for some reason, have had traumatically induced tinnitus as a result of an accident, same thing goes. We're always happy to talk to you about that and what you're experiencing and see how we can help. So listen, looking forward to a great year in 2025. I hope you found this episode useful. If you found this video, this podcast informative, helpful, you enjoyed it, then click on this other podcast that I did, more about distracted driving and exactly what we look for when we're pursuing a claim for somebody that's been injured by a distracted driver. Till next time, be safe, be well.